But you fought basketball players, you fought strikers in the UFC, you fought a 50-year-old, Mike Tyson. Yeah, the money was there, but it wasn't the toughest matches in the world. Why'd you pick those fights? Because you could make money without it being much of a risk.
It's kind of weird, because Jake Paul is extremely bigger than Tank. And but with it being a exhibition, makes sense.
Against a 200-pounder, I think it's not a real fight. Jake just too big. Tank ain't gonna be able to get in from that jab.
Stephen A. Smith didn't hold back when analyzing the upcoming showdown between Jake Paul and Gervonta Tank Davis. According to Stephen, Tank is widely regarded as one of the best fighters of his generation, an explosive knockout artist with remarkable instincts, impeccable timing, and power that can end a fight in an instant. While Jake Paul's size and reach certainly give him an edge, Stephen stressed that raw athleticism alone won't cut it when you're facing a masterful technician like Tank. He cautioned that despite Jake's physical advantages, stepping into the ring with Gervonta could quickly turn into a harsh lesson in the realities of boxing.
Knockout on Ryan Garcia in April of 2023. Stephen A., is Tank Davis the most exciting fighter in boxing?
Yes, he is. He absolutely is. I love me some Terence Crawford. He's spectacular, probably #1 pound for pound on the planet. I'm a Canelo Alvarez fan, obviously a Benavidez fan, but this brother, Gervonta Davis, Tank Davis, the time has come for the world to recognize this is one of the top 5 fighters on the planet. He might be top 3.
Yeah.
You can make a legitimate argument for him to be in 3, 1, or whatever.
Stephen A. Smith highlighted that Gervonta Davis is one of those rare natural fighters whose reflexes and punching power often place him among the sport's elite. While he acknowledges that Jake Paul's size advantage could give him an opportunity to land a decisive blow, Stephen believes that if Davis manages the distance and timing effectively, the fight could quickly turn into a one-sided affair. In his regular analysis, Stephen often cautions Jake that overconfidence could be his downfall. After all, size alone isn't enough when you're up against a well-rounded knockout artist like Gervonta.
Jake Paul versus Tank Davis, they just announced the fight. What's your instant reaction to that?
I don't know what's going to happen with a 135-pounder going up against a 200-pounder. I think it's not a real fight. Jake just too big. Tank ain't gonna be able to get in from that jab. Jake land one good punch on Tank, it's over with.
Stephen A. Smith has repeatedly stated that he sees Jake Paul as more than just a social media star trying his hand at boxing. He recognizes that Jake has taken the sport seriously, training under experienced coaches, setting up proper camps, and putting in real effort. In that sense, Smith says, Jake is conducting himself like a professional. However, Smith argues that commitment alone doesn't equal legitimacy. According to him, it's time for Jake to face legitimate opponents, boxers who are his age, of comparable size, and actively competing at a credible level. Only by stepping into the ring with fighters of that caliber, Smith insists, will Jake prove whether he's truly ready to move beyond the spectacle and earn genuine respect in the boxing world.
Jake Paul is a professional. At some point in time, I don't give a damn if it's a light heavyweight. Better be a Bivol, a super middleweight, Canelo, Mexican monster, David Benavidez, somebody that actually has a reputation. The time has come for Jake Paul to step into the ring with a cat who actually boxes for a living and give us that fight. I appreciate the fact of him promoting. I appreciate him having the cachet as a former YouTuber turned boxer. I like Jake Paul. I respect Jake Paul. I'm just saying, because I like him and because I respect him, I want to see him in the ring. And I don't want to hear, I know his numbers are better, but then he gonna say, I don't need Canelo, Canelo needs me. Well, wait a minute. It ain't just about popularity, bruh. But you fought basketball players, you fought strikers in the UFC, you fought a 50-year-old, Mike Tyson. Yeah, the money was there, but it wasn't the toughest matches in the world. Why'd you pick those fights? Because you could make money without it being much of a risk. Well, if you're doing that, how you gonna turn around and knock Canelo Alvarez for doing the same? Especially working in a sport that you yourself, Jake Paul, has called corrupt and abusive towards fighters. Now, I understand you're upset, you're a little bit salty about Canelo using you to get a better deal from Riyadh or him turning down a fight with you. But what you're attempting to do and what you have done to some degree, Canelo Alvarez has done. He has fought Triple G, he has fought Mayweather. He has, even though Charlo's undersized, he was a champion. Terence Crawford is a champion. By the way, he's not 140, he's not 135, he's 147. And then his last fight, I think, was at 154. And oh, by the way, he would move up a couple of weight classes. Now, I think Canelo needs to be fighting David Benavidez as well. But he did fight and knock out Kovalev at the light heavyweight spot. He did fight and lose to Bivol. He did fight Triple G, not once, not twice, but 3 times. So when Canelo sits up there and says, I fight fighters, he ain't lying. His reputation does speak for itself. So I can't sit up there and flow with you, Jake Paul, on that one.
Stephen A. Smith has pointed out that Jake Paul can't really complain about facing criticism, especially when you consider that Canelo Alvarez, a genuine boxing legend, has also been taking fights that sometimes seem more about the money or the spectacle than about pure competition. Smith argues that while Canelo's legacy is well established, his recent matchups have raised similar concerns. Smith has also called out Jake directly, saying that if he's truly committed to boxing and not just the fame, the money, or the showmanship, he needs to face someone closer to his age and size. He claims Jake has mostly been picking fights with opponents who have clear physical disadvantages, whether they're older or significantly smaller. According to Smith, the only way for Jake to really prove his skills, build credibility, and show real progress is by stepping into the ring with a fighter who's on his level, not just chasing headlines.
By the hype at this particular moment in time. Now, I'll give Jake Paul credit for this. At least he's in the ring with a boxer. But 57 years old is 57 years old. And 57 years old and formally walking into a UFC fight as an audience member, as a patron with a cane, it's hard to me to believe a year later that you're gonna be in any condition to really, really fight. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't know. And if you're Jake Paul, here's what I wanna say to you. It's Mike Tyson, that's fine. It's a money fight, I get you, and you want to make money. But at some point in time, if you keep telling us that you're taking boxing seriously and you want to be recognized as a big-time boxer / fighter, you're going to have to fight somebody closer to your age, who is a contender at the very least in the sport and who lives with it every single day. Could you please get in the ring with somebody? Pretty pleased with sugar on top. I'm interested.
But you fought basketball players, you fought strikers in the UFC, you fought a 50-year-old, Mike Tyson. Yeah, the money was there, but it wasn't the toughest matches in the world. Why'd you pick those fights? Because you could make money without it being much of a risk. Well, if you're doing that, how you gonna turn around and knock Canelo Alvarez for doing the same? Especially working in a sport that you yourself, Jake Paul, has called corrupt and abusive towards fighters. Now, I understand you're upset, you're a little bit salty about Canelo using you to get a better deal from Riyadh or him turning down a fight with you. But what you're attempting to do and what you have done to some degree, Canelo Alvarez has done. He has fought Triple G, he has fought Mayweather. He has, even though Charlo's undersized, he was a champion. Terence Crawford is a champion. By the way, he's not 140, he's not 135, he's 147. And then his last fight, I think, was at 154. And oh, by the way, he would move up a couple of weight classes. Now, I think Canelo needs to be fighting David Benavidez as well. But he did fight and knock out Kovalev at the light heavyweight spot. He did fight and lose to Bivol. He did fight Triple G, not once, not twice, but 3 times. So when Canelo sits up there and says, I fight fighters, he ain't lying. His reputation does speak for itself. So I can't sit up there and flow with you, Jake Paul, on that one.
In response to the criticism, Jake Paul fired back by emphasizing that he's relatively new to boxing and hasn't been involved in the sport his entire life. He leaned into his background in entertainment, saying, "I was on Disney while these guys were already winning UFC titles." With that, He implied that many of his critics have been entrenched in combat sports for much longer, while he was focused on building his brand and career in show business. Jake argues that it's unrealistic to expect him to reach the top of the sport right away. Nevertheless, he insists that he's learning quickly, now fully committed to the fight game and ready to prove himself inside the ring.
You are beating up on dudes who don't box. They're not boxers.
I was on Disney Channel while these guys were winning UFC championships.
Okay.
You know, I was playing with Mickey Mouse while these guys were throwing arm bars and winning UFC championships. Everyone's, analyzing my career, critiquing it, paying attention to it from day one, but you can't tell me who was Mike Tyson's first fight. You can't tell me who Muhammad Ali, who was his fourth fight. No one knows, but everyone's seen all of my fights. I tried to fight Tommy Fury. Yeah, I tried to fight Tommy Fury, and he backed out due to a rib injury. Undefeated, young prospect. He comes from the Fury family. His brother's the heavyweight champion of the world. I tried to fight him, and he got scared.
Stephen A. Smith has openly acknowledged the impact Jake Paul has had in boxing, particularly when it comes to how Paul promotes himself. While Smith has his fair share of criticisms regarding Jake's choice of opponents and the legitimacy of certain matchups, he respects the way Jake is proving that fighters can carve out a successful path without being fully dependent on traditional promoters. Smith argues that promoters have historically manipulated matchmaking, delayed fighters' careers, controlled who gets big opportunities, and sometimes even exploited their influence. By stepping in and bypassing some of those conventional promoter-driven barriers, Jake is bringing fresh attention, money, and energy to the sport. According to Smith, that's something that deserves recognition.
I've always been a fan of Jake because I think that what Jake tries to do for the sport of boxing, I think people don't realize the importance of him being able to promote for himself and not being reliant on the promoters who I believe has held the sport hostage. The only critique I've ever given Jake, I just want Jake to fight boxers. Like Nate Diaz, we know his reputation. We know the man can fight. We know in the octagon he could be something special. But we know you breathe on him, he starts bleeding.
It's a fair critique. And you know what? He should fight boxers. But then again, should he? Because I'll tell you why. If you're a human who can rake in $6 to $10 million fighting people that you know you're going to beat, and you want to build a resume and a record that's impressive with a good highlight reel, you got to be strategic about this shit. Jake's 25, 26. He's got so much time.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, I get where you coming from. All I'm saying is, we don't know your skill set because you haven't been in there with anybody really, really skilled.
One of the sharpest minds in boxing, Terence Crawford, has weighed in on the upcoming fight, predicting that the weight difference could play a major role. He believes Jake Paul's physical advantage might overpower technique if he manages to land a clean shot early on. Crawford was straightforward, stating that if Jake lands just one solid punch, it could determine the outcome of the fight. However, he also added a caveat, noting that due to the potential mismatch, this fight might end up feeling more like an exhibition than a true, high-level boxing battle.
Jake Paul versus Tank Davis, they just announced the fight. What's your instant reaction to that?
I don't know what's going to happen with a 135-pounder going up against a 200-pounder. I think it's not a real fight. Jake just too big. Tank ain't gonna be able to get in from that jab. Jake land one good punch on Tank, it's over with.
Teddy Atlas, a respected figure in the boxing world, has openly discussed Jake Paul's rise in the sport and the dedication behind it. He acknowledges that no matter how much critics disapprove, Jake deserves recognition for securing the fights he's wanted. According to Atlas, this is no accident. It takes persistence, significant investment, and a willingness to trade stability for the spotlight. Paul has managed to carve out a position in boxing that few expected from a YouTuber-turned-fighter. Atlas also highlighted that Jake has genuinely improved his boxing skills. He spent years training with top coaches, sparring with professional fighters, and learning how to compete at a high level. While some boxing purists may mock him, Atlas believes their criticism often overlooks the work and progress Paul has made. Many fans dismiss him because of his unconventional background, but Atlas argues that Jake's journey serves as clear evidence of the effort he's put in to get to this point.
That I gave too much credit to Paul. Why? He's done a hell of a job to put himself in this position. He sold himself, he sold his dream, he took his dream, he took his idea, and he put it out there, and he made it happen. Give him credit for that. And he made it happen. And he took risk along the way. Yeah, he picked his spots. He's in the driver's seat. He gets to pick his spots. He's the one bringing the money. He's the one promoting. Yeah, he's the name. He made himself that, coming from where he came from, with all his followers and the whole thing, and just, you know, just the uniqueness of what he was doing. But he has learned along the way. He's not a top guy yet. No, I don't know that he ever will be. He didn't have that amateur background and the things that you usually need to be a top guy. But he has improved. He is a work in progress. He is a guy that you got to give him credit that he's respected the sport. He went out there, he's worked hard at it, and he's gotten himself into this position. Having said all of that, this might be a step too far. Now, when I say it, I'm also, I try to be responsible. I've been in this game 50 years, so I know where not to step, where you could twist an ankle, or worse, you could break a leg or fall down.
Many analysts believe this fight has the potential to become one of the biggest boxing events in recent years, possibly even surpassing traditional matchups in global reach and audience engagement. Their reasoning is simple. Jake Paul is not just a boxer, but also a huge entertainer and influencer with a fan base that extends far beyond the boxing world. While most fighters typically appeal to dedicated boxing fans, Jake brings millions of casual viewers in through his massive social media presence and mainstream popularity. This crossover appeal transforms the fight into more of a cultural phenomenon than just another sporting event. Experts predict that it will dominate headlines, break pay-per-view records, and change how boxing connects with audiences worldwide.
For the boxing, then Gervonta Tank Davis. Now, Canelo's not a bigger global star than Jake Paul because Jake Paul is an entertainer outside the sport of boxing. That's why. So now you have people telling you that Jake Paul and Tank Davis is a circus fight, okay? It's a commercial circus fight on top of that. Jake Paul fights at cruiserweight and heavyweight, 200 plus pound, 200 minimum. Okay, his last fight against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., a former world champion, the son of a legend, he weighed in at 199 pounds. He fought Iron Mike Tyson at 224 pounds, okay? Tank Davis fights at 135 pounds. You have the storyline of David and Goliath that's going to push the entertainment part, okay? That's going to get people to draw interest in the fight. Why? Because you have the whole David and Goliath situation going on. So again, that attracts people. Okay? So it's a sideshow. But even the sideshow, yes, it's going to be on Netflix. Yes, it's going to be a big event on Netflix. But guess what? They are fighting at the State Farm Arena in Atlanta, Georgia.
The fight has drawn widespread criticism, with many calling it a spectacle disguised as legitimate sport, driven more by money than by competition. Commentators on boxing scene have described it as a greedy, cartoonish sideshow, lamenting that tradition and merit are being sacrificed in favor of social media clicks and cash. From their perspective, this represents a troubling step backward for the sport of boxing. Gervonta Davis has faced particular criticism for choosing to bypass a contractual rematch with Lamont Roach Jr. in favor of a much more lucrative bout with Jake Paul. Roach, who believes he should have won their controversial draw, felt disrespected by Davis's decision. Despite the rematch clause in their contract, Davis never finalized it. Instead, he's set to earn around $100 million for the exhibition with Jake Paul, an amount that far exceeds what he could expect from a potential rematch with Roach. Critics argue that this move prioritizes financial gain over the integrity of the sport.
Gervonta doesn't want this fight.
We want that rematch next. It's definitely the one I want next.
It's the fight I want next, but it's not the fight that's going to be next. Tank said they ain't going to give it to you. PBC had a contract for Tank Roach. Tank didn't sign it. Roach knew all along fight ain't going to happen. He was only contractually obligated to have the rematch if Roach win. Roach won that fight. Robbed him of the knockdown. It's a draw. Now they're not contractually obligated. So why didn't Tank sign the contract?
Gervonta Davis, and you're being offered 20, 30, 40 million, whatever the number is, and you're getting 7 or 8 to fight Lamont Roach.
Do you remember once upon a time, Gervonta Tank Davis had a contract on the table for like 200 million, 300 million, something crazy like that? 6-fight deal, what happened to it? The PBC split with Showtime, now with Amazon. Gervonta doesn't want to fight Jake. What else is he going to do? Let me tell you the biggest issue. He had nowhere to go.
Where's the...
Gary Logan and David Adelaide have both noted that in today's boxing world, fame and financial rewards often take precedence over legacy or competitive pride. Instead of chasing a rematch with Lamont Roach, Gervonta Davis opted for the highly profitable and high-profile fight with Jake Paul. The analysts concluded that, while the decision makes sense from a business standpoint, it highlights how modern boxing increasingly places more emphasis on spectacle and profit than on pure competition and the sport's traditional values.
We got Tank getting in the ring with Jake Paul pretty soon. What do you think that, like, what is it?
You know why, it's people, a lot of people mad, a lot of people upset, real hardcore boxing fans. But you know what about boxing? I like, when it's all said and done and when you guys go off, they going to the next man. Yeah. So if y'all can make a big payday, go get that payday. The sport of boxing don't love you. That's the problem with this sport. It's like, what Jake Paul did, man, it's crazy, but people getting paid off of it.
Yeah.
So if he can call any one of y'all out and y'all can get that payday, I say go get it, baby.
Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. Appreciate you reading.